All right, I have figured out what makes a good documentary, and before you even touch your camera, know that the battle is won and lost in pre-production. I recently started a new project, and I have spent over a month in pre-production breaking down every aspect of this mini docuseries that I'm shooting. After the last 10 years of making and being a part of documentary projects, I have ran into every single problem in the book, and being able to have this time to really think about how to produce this project, I got the absolute most out of my production days, and that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do today, is plan to be efficient. First, I want to talk about a new software that I've been using to actually get all of my pre-production work done for all of my projects, and that is Milanote. And to answer your question that everyone's probably having as soon as I said that, no, they are not sponsoring this video. They're just a really awesome software that has helped me tremendously pull all of my pre-production materials and sources into one place so I can share it with clients and I can share it with my crew, so that way we can get everybody on the same page. And what I love about it is they also have an app that allows me to quickly pull up everything on my phone. If I have to look at storyboards or shot list, I can pull it up on my phone. I don't have to have a notepad. To be able to have all of my pre-production materials in one place that I can just pull up on an app, it's super helpful. Now, you don't have to have Milanote to apply what I'm about to share with you guys. All you need for this is a way to organize your production. So if you're a paper and pen guy and you want to take a notepad on set, that's absolutely cool. All of this information is still going to be helpful and useful for you. But I will say, learning how to use Milanote has helped me tremendously, and I think it's worth a shot trying out and just checking out at least their free trial just to see if it's for you. So let's jump into Milanote so I can show you guys my process. So this is my project board. This is where everything lives for this specific project. Now, I was hired to produce this project by a client, and while we were working on things, we could share everything with her, keeping her updated and all of us on the same page. So to start with, we have the mood board, episode storyboards, shot schedule, shot list, interview questions, gear needed, and cost breakdown. So to start with, let's jump into the mood board so that way I could show you guys what I use it for, how I use it, and how I apply it to my pre-production process. The goal of the mood board is to create an overall sense of style for the project. So I wanted to show the different interview looks we could go for. Here you have a wide and a close-up of this kind of look, and then I wanted to also show different angles that would express different emotions. Also, from my experience, I know that not every interview is going to be able to have like this formal sit-down look. Sometimes you get some things on the fly. Sometimes, you're just out and about outside and you want to stop and just get a quick interview just to get their take on something. Knowing that in mind, I thought it'd be a good idea to have a good example of an interview look outside, just in case we would have to do that. If we are shooting outside, I would shoot something like this, which is keep the subject in a third, have a distant nature background, and try to kind of blur it out as much as possible. Now, moving to the cinematography, my goal and the way I was thinking about this project creatively was I wanted to have everything feel like it was almost shot in golden hour or sunset and sundown. And my goal is to make sure as much as possible, again, you don't have 100% control over this, but the sun is kind of backlighting our subject. And over here, these are the kind of establishing shots we're looking to get and what we need. I have these nice wide shots showing the property, and then I also have some drone shots that I want to get. Also in my mood board, I like to add music from MusicBed that I could actually use in the edit. Having examples of music that you can't use doesn't really help you. I mean, it gives you a sense of style, but I like to grab it from whatever stock site that I'm going to use, and in this case, it's MusicBed. So I go and I just import everything that I could possibly use from a playlist and show it to the client and see if they're okay with it, if that's something that works for them. Now over here, I have the different fonts and graphic elements that we could bring in for titles and lower thirds. So again, the goal is to give yourself as many examples as possible so you can limit the amount of guesswork that you do on set. So that way production is more about execution and less about trying to figure out how to light something or continuity issues or how this shot stylistically would go with this shot. You kind of get everything figured out so that way you're on set, you know what you're trying to execute. Next, we have episode storyboards. So I thought it would be a really cool idea to start the series with cinematic shots of a dish that's really important to her and have her dialogue from an interview play over that B-roll. Now, this is a good point to talk about the format of the series. And what is a format? Format is basically how each episode is structured. And the format that we created was to always have some sort of cinematic intro with a dialogue or a VO opening the episode. And as you go further in the episode, you move into the show title sequence. Then from there, we would jump into whatever was going on that day. Sometimes it would be gardening or building something, but in this case, it's going right into showing you how this crepe recipe is made. Then after that, we get into the plan of this whole place, talking about what the farm is and what it's about. And then Mary, which is her name, shows us around. From there, she finishes making the crepes, the family eats breakfast, and then we end with an interview of Mary talking about herself and her family. But pretty much this is the idea and the format for every episode. And what I like to do is I like to make sure that I have at least a general understanding of how the edit is going to look with the storyboard for each episode. So I break down every episode like this, and I also share it with the client so the client has a really good idea and everybody's on the same page. That way, when I do turn around and edit, she knows more or less what she's getting from it. And it's not going to be a huge shock of like, okay, well, why is this happening to this point? This storyboard keeps not only myself, but my crew, my editor, and my client on the same page. Moving into the shot list, basically the shot list is a really detailed version of the storyboard. And what I try to do with the shot list is make it more like a checklist to make sure that I get all the shots that I need to make sure I can tell the story in the edit. And as you can see, I broke the shot list out into sections. Right here, I have the slow-mo intro, so I can get all my slow-mo shots out of the way, and then breaking down the recipe section to the plan into Mary shows us around section, into the family eats section. So for every section of the day, I have my checklist of shots that I need to get, so I make sure that I don't forget anything. But it's also easy to see when I open up my phone, I'm not, scrambling around. I have it built out into sections, so that way I know like, okay, in this section, these are all the shots that I need to get for this point of time. And some of the most important information that I get down on my shot list is the focal length of the lens and the frame rate. So that way, going into production, I don't have to think about the different shots that I need. It's all there for me. In production, I'm just spending that time executing what I've already laid out for myself in pre-production, instead of being on set and wasting time thinking about a million different things. So after the shot list, the next step in my process is creating a shot schedule. And I found this to actually be extremely helpful because there are a lot of decisions to make on set. And if you have a schedule laid out so everyone can follow it, including the crew, including talent, it lets everyone know where they have to be and when. And instead of thinking about, you're on set, you finished some shots in some area, you don't have to think about what's next. You can just follow the schedule and go, okay, well, from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I'm supposed to be here shooting this, and then right after that, we got to go do this. And the biggest help with creating this shot schedule is going to be the shot order. You're not going to shoot everything in the order of your storyboard because your storyboard is showing you in the sequence of the edit. What I do is I organize my shoot schedule according to the equipment that I need, the time of day. The sun is a huge factor in all of this. I wanted to make sure any outside shots were scheduled sunrise and sunset. In that middle time of the day, somewhere between, like 9:30 to like 4 o'clock is like the red zone for outside. We do not want to shoot anything outside at that time. And there's two reasons. Number one, it is extremely hot outside. To lug around a bunch of equipment outside and all that is going to be really tough. Number two, the sun is right overhead and it's beaming down, and it just makes everything look super flat. Now, if you notice, looking over this entire shot schedule, I have the entire day laid out, including lighting setup times, break times, and benchmarkers of where we need to be throughout the day. Now, the last thing that I do in my pre-production process is write the interview questions. And the reason why I write this last is because I know what's going on every single day, and I could ask questions based on what's going on for those days. Now, as you can see, my interview questions are broken down into sections. And if you guys want to see how I create my interview questions, check out this link right here, and you guys can see how I lay out my interview questions. That is a very important part of making a documentary, is creating these interview questions that generate emotional responses. Now, our goal was to film 8 episodes, and throughout these 8 episodes, we had 9 production days. 8 days for each episode, and then 1 day at the very end to shoot interviews. And the reason why I shoot interviews at the end and on the last day is because I want us to be able to go through all of the events, all of the things that are going on throughout those 8 production days. And then on that last production day, she could talk about all of those events that have happened. If anything special happened, if anything bad or good happened throughout those days, she could speak to it at the end. And we could also make it feel like, depending on how we interview, that it's happening on that actual day as well. So that's why I decided to do the interview the last day. And I would suggest that if you guys are shooting, a documentary, I would suggest shooting, if you can, if possible, shooting the interviews last. So that way, while you're getting all your verite footage, while you're getting all the kind of following around and in real life stuff, you could speak about it on your last final days of production, if that makes sense. So that is how I plan my documentary projects. And even though this was very specific to this project, I think a lot of the same rules apply to any production, to any documentary that you're actually going to work on. So thanks for watching, guys. If you want to learn more about documentary filmmaking, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button if you haven't already, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one.